On today's episode of The Franchise, today's Wednesday, February 1st. In this episode, we have Tom Brady announcing his retirement from the NFL after 23 seasons. We'll go over and discuss that. Give out my top 5 designated hitters heading into the 2023 season. We're going to do top 10, doing top 5. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the NBA contenders, which teams at this point in the NBA season do I think can actually go on a run and win an NBA championship. Before we get into it, as always, Franchise is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So whether you watch or listen to the podcast, the Franchise is available on those platforms. The website for articles is in the description of every single episode, thefranchisepodcast.net. Instagram, TikTok, also in the description of the episodes. All right, let's get started with the biggest news, and that's Tom Brady announcing his retirement after 23 seasons in the NFL. This is his second time retiring. He retired last year around the same time. He was retired for about 30 days, and then he decided to come back to the NFL. But this year, right now, Tom Brady's retired for reals. I mean, he said it. He said, I'm retired for reals this time. Tom Brady's the GOAT, the greatest football player to ever grace the earth, to ever touch a football. He's the GOAT. He may not have the attributes that some quarterbacks have. He may not have the arm strength of Aaron Rodgers or Mahomes or the mobility of Lamar Jackson, or, may not have the skill set of some of the other great quarterbacks in the past. But Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, regardless of his physical attributes. What he did on the field for 23 seasons, I don't think will ever be reached again by another player. 15-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro, 7-time Super Bowl champion. That is the most by a single player in NFL history. He has more Super Bowls than any other team in NFL history. Is the second quarterback ever to win a championship with 2 different teams. The only other person to do that is Peyton Manning. 3-time MVP, 5-time Super Bowl MVP. He has the most passing yards in NFL history. 89,214 yards. 649 career touchdown passes. 64 career completion percentage. Tom Brady is a legend, right? What he was able to do for 23 seasons, late into his 40s, just the longevity that he had to lead multiple teams to Super Bowls, what he's able to do late in games to come back from down big deficits in moments that matter the most. He's the clutchest player in the history of the NFL, one of the clutchest players in all of sports, one of the clutchest athletes, one of the greatest athletes to ever play a sport, right? Regardless of basketball, baseball, football, obviously. Any sport, Tom Brady is among the GOAT conversation of just greatest athletes ever. What he was able to do, later on in his career with Tampa Bay. I know they won a Super Bowl and then they had some success. Last season was not the best season, but Tom Brady was still a great player. He's never had a year in his career where you could say, oh, he's fallen off of a cliff. I mean, he's had every single season of his career besides 2016 and 2000 and the early years of his career. He's had more than 4,000 yards. Obviously, 2008 he tore his ACL. But Tom Brady, as the insane longevity, retired at 45 years old. This past season, 4,600 yards with 25 touchdown passes, 490 completions. And Tom Brady is just an incredible athlete. So, congratulations to Tom Brady for retiring. Had an incredible career and is a first ballot Hall of Famer, the greatest player of all time. So Tom Brady no longer playing football, which is crazy, Tom Brady's always been a guy that, when I've watched football, has been a player, has been on the field, and now he will no longer be playing the game of football. But what does this mean for some other things this offseason? Because if the past few weeks and yesterday's episode, I was talking about teams going after Brady this offseason. I had mentioned yesterday I think the 49ers are a legit possibility. I said the Raiders, the Dolphins. Well, what do those teams do now that Tom Brady is retired? First of all, Tampa Bay, his team that he was with last season, what are they going to do? They do have Kyle Trask, who they drafted a few years ago in the second round, as a guy on their roster that they could play at the quarterback position. They could go out and get a Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Lamar Jackson. They could go out there and they could try and trade up in the draft. They could draft a guy later in the draft, like a Hendon Hooker, Stetson Bennett, a Anthony Richardson from Florida. There's a lot of options for the Buccaneers. Obviously, none of them probably will be as good as Tom Brady. But there's, a lot of options for these teams. For the Raiders, what do? I think the only reason they got rid of Derek Carr was because they thought they were able to get Tom Brady. But now that he's retired, what are you going to do? Are they going to go out there and draft a Bryce Young, a C.J. Stroud, a Will Levis? Are they going to try and sign a Lamar Jackson or trade for Lamar Jackson? Aaron Rodgers? What are these teams going to do that were banking on Tom Brady playing another season and then trying to go out there and pursue him in free agency? But Tom Brady officially retiring as the greatest player of all time in the NFL and one of the greatest athletes in all of sports. All right, let's do top 5 designated hitters. I was going to do top 10. I was saying I was going to do top 10 for weeks now. But the thing with the DH position in Major League Baseball is that a lot of the teams that have, all 30 teams have a DH now. A lot of the teams, platoon guys. You'll be a first baseman or an outfielder, or your best player will get a few days off and he'll just DH. So I just narrowed it to the top 5 guys. These are the 5 guys that primarily play DH. Like, sometimes they'll play another position, but for a majority of the season, they are playing the designated hitter position. Number 5 is JD Martinez. He's on the LA Dodgers now, signed with them this offseason. Last few seasons with the Boston Red Sox. This guy's a great power threat. 16 homers last year, 274 average. Past few seasons before that, he's been a 30-plus homer guy with Boston. Last year, kind of a down year. At the plate, he hit 270, had a 79 OPS, but the 16 homers is not what you expect from JD Martinez. He strikes out at a very high rate, and he does swing and miss, but when he is on and he connects with the ball, he can hit it as hard and as far as anybody in the game. He is 35 years old, going to be on a Dodgers team that will be competing. So I do think it's a nice fit for him and for the Dodgers to have him play that DH role. Maybe he gets a few, games in the outfield, but his mobility out there is a liability in the outfield. So that's why, he is a designated hitter. Last year, some of his stats were down. His exit velocity, his hard hit rate were down, but in years past, they were a little bit higher. But he's getting older, so maybe he is on the decline. But he's at number 5. 4 is Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees. This guy's one of the best power hitters in the game of baseball. 31 homers, 211 average, 297 on base, 759 OPS. All of his stats have been going down. His homers, he's always going to be a 30 homer guy when he's on the field. And he hits the ball arguably the hardest in baseball. 99 percentile average exit velo, 100th in max exit velo, 98th in hard hit, 98th in barrel percentage. He strikes out. He walks a lot, but he does strike out and swing and miss at a lot of pitches. So he's a guy that will hit 30 plus homers, but he's going to strike out near 100 times a season. Giancarlo Stanton, when he's on the field, is a threat at the plate, but the past few seasons he hasn't been able to stay on the field as much as you would like for a guy that's making $30 million a season. He's at number 4. Number 3 is Bryce Harper. He's going to be out for a majority of this next season with elbow surgery. 18 homers, 286 average, 878 OPS last season. he's one of the best left-handed hitters in the game. Multiple-time MVP. Part of the Phillies team that went to the World Series. Had incredible moments in the postseason. His ability to drive in runners, hit for average and contact, as well as hit. He can't hit 30 homers, 40 homers a season. Last year only hit 18, but he did miss significant time with an injury. He probably won't play in 2023 until July, so he will miss significant time. But when he does come back, he's going to be still one of the best players in the game. Number 2, Yordan Alvarez of the Astros. I think he's the best. It's between him and Shohei Ohtani for the best left-handed power hitter in baseball. He's in the 100th percentile in average exit velo, hard hit percentage, slugging, batting average, WOBA, barrel percentage, and then he's in the 99th percentile in max exit velocity. He doesn't strike out. He walks at a very, very high clip. He's such a threat at the plate. 37 homers last season with a 306 batting average, 1.019 OPS. If Aaron Judge didn't exist and Shohei Ohtani didn't either, Yordan Alvarez would have won MVP last season with what he was able to do at the plate. Hit the home run in the World Series that won the game for the Astros. He's only 25. He's going to get so much better as a hitter over the next few seasons. He's arguably one of the best hitters in the game, especially from that left side. He's at number 2. Number 1 is Ohtani, Shohei Ohtani, because he's the best player in the game. So in regard to the DH position, he is the best. 34 homers, 273 average with 875 OPS last season. We'll talk about him once we get to the pitchers too. But what he's able to do at both sides, being able to pitch and hit at both sides at an elite level, MVP level from both sides, is absolutely incredible. He's able to hit 35 to 40 homers a season, hitting very, very, very high batting average, 270 last year. He's won an MVP. He's able to win ball games on the mound and at the plate for a team that has been pretty mediocre the past few seasons in the Angels. Ohtani is easily the best player in the game, and that makes him the best DH in the game because he's such a threat at the plate. He has power to all fields, contact, able to drive in runs, can steal 15 bases a season, and can hit 35 to 40 homers at the plate. Those are the top 5 DHs. Next is going to be the pitchers, starting pitchers. I don't know if I'm doing lefties or righties yet. I guess we'll find out pretty soon. I really don't know what I'm going to do. There's so many good pitchers. All right, finally, NBA contenders. We're at the point in the NBA season before the All-Star break. What teams do I think can actually go out there and win a championship this season? I wrote down 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them. There's a question mark next to a 10th team. But starting out east, which teams do I think can win a championship? They're the Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Nets, and Cavaliers. I think those are the 5 teams in the Eastern Conference right now that can go out there and go on a run and win a championship. Starting with Boston, they're number 3rd in points per game this season. They have an MVP candidate in Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown could be an all-star starter. Robert Williams, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Defensive Player of the Year, Malcolm Brogdon, and led by a coach who's only their intern, but they have the best record in the entire NBA at 36-15. They have a positive 5.5 point differential. They're allowing 112 points per game. They are dominating. They made it to the finals last season. They could have won the championship last year. So I think they have the same roster and they added some pieces. They're clearly a favorite to win the championship. Milwaukee, the Bucks are 17th in points per game. They have Giannis, who is an MVP candidate, all-star captain. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez. The Bucks team is still going to be very, very good. I mean, Giannis is out there producing MVP level basketball. The Sixers with Joel Embiid, MVP candidate, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and Doc Rivers as their head coach. I really, really, really like that team. They have a plus 3.7 point differential, scoring 114 points per game. That's enough for 13th best in the league. And their defense is allowing 111 points per game. The Brooklyn Nets as well. They're 31-19, fourth in the Eastern Conference right now. They're 4.5 games back of first place. Kevin Durant, he's missing the last few weeks with injury, but he's an all-star MVP candidate when on the floor, one of the 5 best players in the world. Kyrie Irving, I think, is getting very underrated right now. Always controversy around Kyrie Irving, especially earlier in the season. There was a lot of stuff to say about Kyrie, but he's been quietly having an amazing season, all-star starter, and I think he might be the second best or third best point guard in the entire league. And they have 3-point shooters on that team. Seth Curry, Joe Harris, Yuta Watanabe, I think his name is. That guy's a freaking beast beyond the arc. And Nicholas Claxton, who's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and an amazing young player. And then finally out east is the Cavaliers. They're near the bottom of the league in points per game at 27, putting up 111 a game. But their defense is the best defense in the game of basketball when you look at points per game. They're allowing 106 points per game. They have a plus 4.4 point differential. The Donovan Mitchell trade for them was an amazing trade. He's putting up insane numbers. He's an all-star starter. And then they have Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, Kevin Love coming off the bench. This Cavaliers team is insanely deep defensively. And they have guys that can score. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. How did I forget about Jared Allen? That guy's an incredible player at the rim. So the Cavs, they may be in the bottom of the league in terms of scoring, but they do have guys that can turn it on. And I think they're a team that they could make a move at the deadline to pick up a scorer. And I still like them, no matter what they do, to be a contender at this point in the season. All right, out west, I have I have 4, maybe 5 teams for my contenders right now out west. The first one's the Denver Nuggets, 35-16, best record out west, second best record in the NBA. Nikola Jokic is the favorite to win MVP right now. That'd be his 3rd straight MVP. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon are all balling out there in Denver. They're number 8 in points per game, putting up 116, allowing 112. I mean, they've been a team that's been atop of the Western Conference for years. They haven't been able to get over the hump. But Nikola Jokic is playing insane basketball, and I think he's capable of taking this team to a championship this season. Number 2 is the Grizzlies. Memphis putting up number 7 in points per game. That's 116, allowing 112. 32-18. Ja Morant is an insane player. He's one of the best young players and point guards in the league. Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., all of the guys out there on that Memphis Grizzlies team, Dylan Brooks, are absolutely balling out. They're second in the Western Conference. For me, I also have the Clippers, 28th in points per game, 3rd in defenses, points per game allowed. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they haven't played a lot together this season on the floor, but by the time the playoffs come, they should be on the floor together. They have some of the best depth in the league. Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, John Wall, Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, and Tyronn Lue is one of the best head coaches in the entire league. So the Clippers for me are a contender. And then finally is the Warriors, reigning champions, number 2 in points per game. They're the number 5 team in 3-point percentage. Steph Curry, best point guard in the league. Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole. That Warriors team, they may be 5th in the conference right now, but when it all comes at the end of the year when they're in the playoffs, I mean, they're a force to be reckoned with. They have won 4 championships, and they have some of the best players of all time on that team. So they're easily a contender. And then I have one more team that I put a question mark next to, and that's the Sacramento Kings. They have the longest playoff drought in NBA history. And right now they're third in the Western Conference at a 28-21 record, 119 points per game, 116 allowed. They're playing great basketball. All right, they're 22nd in defense. Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, both of those guys could be all-stars. Kevin Huerter is playing amazing. But do I think their team? I just don't know where I stand on them being a team that can win a championship this season. Their top 3 scorers, Fox, Sabonis, Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk, and Keegan Murray are also out there. But their bench depth is not the strongest. Trey Lyles, Terrence Davis, Davion Mitchell, Sean Holmes. They could use some more guys off the bench, maybe even another scorer, and definitely some defense. But Sacramento in the regular season right now is playing amazing. They will make the playoffs, barring a catastrophic collapse where they never win another game this season. Sacramento will win the playoffs. I just think they are a few pieces away, maybe even a few years away, from being a true contender in the NBA and going out there and winning a championship. But yeah, like I said, I have 9 contenders out there. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I have 9 contenders right now to win a championship. As we get closer to the playoffs, that list will definitely shrink, and we'll be down to there's 4 teams that can realistically win a championship. But that will do it for this episode. Franchise will be back tomorrow with another one.